I still remember the day I stood in front of that house for the first time. A 4-bedroom home with a big backyard, a 2-car garage, and a front porch where my mom could finally sit and watch the sunset without worrying about rent. I had dreamed of this moment since I was a kid, watching her work herself to the bone just to keep food on our table. I thought buying her this house would be the happiest day of my life. I was wrong, because that same house became the place where I learned the most painful truth about my own family. Before I share what happened, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if this story touches you in any way, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in a small town in Ohio was not easy for my family. My name is Marcus, and my story begins in a run-down apartment on the east side of town, where the walls were thin enough to hear every argument from the neighbors, and the heating barely worked during those brutal Midwestern winters. My father walked out on us when I was just 8 years old. I still remember that Tuesday morning. He said he was going to buy cigarettes from the corner store. He never came back. No phone call, no letter, no explanation. Just gone like smoke disappearing into the air. He left behind my mother Barbara, me, and my little sister Jenna, who was only 4 at the time. My mother was a warrior in every sense of the word. After my father abandoned us, she picked up 2 jobs to keep us afloat. During the day, she worked at a packaging plant about 20 miles outside of town. The shifts were long, sometimes 10 or 12 hours, and she would come home smelling like cardboard and industrial glue. But she never complained. Not once. At night, she worked as a waitress at a local diner called Rosie's. I used to stay up past my bedtime pretending to be asleep just so I could hear her come through the door around midnight. Her feet would be so swollen that she could barely walk to her bedroom. But every single morning without fail, she would wake up before dawn to make us breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy. But to me, it tasted like love. I made a promise to myself back then. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, sitting at the kitchen table watching my mother count coins to see if we had enough for groceries that week. I promised myself that one day I would give her the life she deserved. One day she would never have to count coins again. That promise became my fuel. I threw myself into my studies knowing that education was my only ticket out of poverty. While other kids were playing video games or hanging out at the mall, I was at the library studying for hours. I did not have a computer at home, so I would stay at school until the janitor kicked me out just to use the computer lab. My hard work paid off. I graduated high school as valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to Ohio State University. I still remember the day I got that acceptance letter. My mother cried for an hour straight. She kept saying she was so proud of me that all her sacrifices were worth it. But college was not easy either. Even with a full scholarship covering tuition, I still needed money for books, food, and a place to live. So I worked 3 jobs throughout my college years. I delivered pizzas 4 nights a week, worked as a teaching assistant for the computer science department, and took on freelance coding projects whenever I could find them. There were semesters when I slept only 4 hours a night. But I never complained. I had my mother's blood in my veins. I graduated with honors with a degree in software engineering. Within a week of graduation, I had a job offer from a major tech company in Austin, Texas. The starting salary was more money than my mother had ever made in a single year. I remember calling her to share the news, and she cried again. Happy tears, she called them. Over the next 5 years, I climbed the corporate ladder. I worked 60, sometimes 70 hours a week. I took on projects that nobody else wanted. I volunteered for the difficult assignments, the ones with tight deadlines and impossible expectations. And slowly but surely, I proved myself. By the time I was 30 years old, I had been promoted to senior developer, earning a 6-figure salary with bonuses and stock options. Throughout all those years, I never forgot my promise. Every single month, I sent money back home to my mother. At first, it was just a few $100s to help with groceries and bills. But as my income grew, so did my contributions. I paid off all her credit card debt, about $15,000 that had accumulated over the years. I bought her a reliable car, so she would not have to take the bus to work anymore. I even convinced her to quit her night job at the diner. After 30 years of working 2 jobs, she finally got to rest. But I wanted to do more. I wanted to give her something permanent, something that would change her life forever. So, on her 60th birthday, I flew back to Ohio with a surprise. I had been secretly working with a real estate agent for months searching for the perfect house. I found it in a quiet suburb of Columbus. A beautiful 4-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen with granite countertops, a backyard big enough for a garden, and a front porch with a swing. The asking price was $350,000. I paid it in full, no mortgage, no loans. Just a cashier's check with my name on it. The day I brought my mother to see the house, I blindfolded her in the car. She kept asking where we were going, giggling like a little girl. When I finally removed the blindfold and she saw the house, she collapsed to her knees and sobbed. She kept saying it was too much, that she did not deserve it. I knelt down beside her and held her hands. "You deserve this, and so much more," I told her. "This is for every sacrifice you made, for every double shift, for every meal you skipped so Jenna and I could eat. This is my thank you." That day, watching my mother walk through her new home, touching the walls like she could not believe they were real, I felt like I had finally fulfilled my promise. I felt like the luckiest son in the world. I put everything in her name. The house, the property, all of it belonged to her. And I set up automatic payments for all the utilities: electricity, water, gas, internet, home insurance. Everything was covered. She would never have to worry about a bill again. At that moment, standing in the living room of my mother's new house, I truly believed that this was the beginning of a beautiful new chapter for our family. I had no idea how wrong I was. The first sign of trouble came about 6 months after my mother moved into her new home. I got a phone call from my sister Jenna one evening. She was crying, and at first I could barely understand what she was saying. Jenna had always had a harder time in life than I did. While I escaped through education and hard work, she took a different path. She got married young at just 22 to a guy named Brad, who worked construction. They had 2 kids quickly, Tyler and Madison, and for a while things seemed okay. But Brad turned out to be unreliable. He drank too much, could not hold down a job, and eventually started staying out all night without explanation. Jenna finally divorced him when she was 33, but by then the damage was done. She had no degree, no work experience, no savings, and 2 kids to raise. On the phone that night, Jenna told me that she had been evicted from her apartment. She had fallen behind on rent for 3 months and had nowhere to go. She asked if she could move in with Mom for a little while, just until she got back on her feet. Of course, I said yes. She was my sister. She had 2 young kids. What was I supposed to do, let them live on the street? I told her she could stay at Mom's house for a few months, rent-free, while she found a job and saved up for her own place. A few months turned into a year, then 2 years. And in that time, I watched the situation slowly deteriorate. Jenna never got a job. Every time I asked about her job search, she had an excuse. She could not find childcare for Tyler and Madison. The jobs in her area did not pay enough to cover daycare costs. She was dealing with anxiety and depression from her divorce. The excuses were endless. Meanwhile, I noticed that the household bills were climbing steadily. The electricity bill, which used to be around $150 a month, had doubled to over $300. The water bill tripled. When I asked my mother about it, she said that the kids took long showers, and Jenna liked to run the air conditioning all day. But here is what really bothered me. Even though Jenna claimed she could not work because she needed to watch her kids, my mother was the one actually taking care of Tyler and Madison. Barbara would pick them up from school, help them with homework, make them dinner, and put them to bed. Meanwhile, Jenna was always out, shopping at the mall, getting her nails done, meeting friends for lunch, living a lifestyle that she certainly was not paying for. I tried to bring it up once during a phone call with my mother. I suggested as gently as I could that maybe Jenna should start contributing something to the household expenses. Even just a few $100s a month would help. My mother's response shocked me. She became angry, defensive. She accused me of being selfish and cold-hearted. She said that Jenna was going through a difficult time and needed support, not criticism. She reminded me that family helps family no matter what. Then she hung up on me. I sat there holding my phone, stunned. I had never heard my mother speak to me like that before. For the first time, I felt a tiny crack forming in my heart. Things got worse when Uncle Derek entered the picture. Derek was my mother's younger brother, 52 years old, and never quite figured out how to adult, as Priya would later put it. He had bounced from job to job his entire life, always blaming someone else for his failures. The economy was bad. His boss was unfair. His coworkers were jealous. There was always a reason why things did not work out for Derek. About a year after Jenna moved in, Derek showed up at my mother's door. He had been evicted from his apartment for not paying rent, a pattern that had repeated itself many times throughout his life. He asked Barbara if he could crash at her place for a few weeks while he figured things out. My mother said yes without even consulting me. I found out about it after the fact through a casual mention in a phone call. By the way, she said, your Uncle Derek is staying with us now. He is using the guest room. I was not happy about it, but I did not want to start a fight. I told myself it would only be temporary. Derek would find a new job, save some money, and move out within a month or two. That is not what happened. Derek made himself very comfortable in my mother's house. He claimed the living room as his personal entertainment zone, spending hours each day watching sports on the big screen TV. When I visited for a weekend, I found him sprawled on the couch at 2 p.m, beer in hand, watching a football game at full volume, while my mother cleaned the kitchen and Jenna's kids ran around unsupervised in the backyard. Not long after Derek moved in, I got a notification from the cable company. Someone had upgraded the TV package to include premium sports channels, adding an extra $75 to the monthly bill. When I called to ask about it, Derek answered the phone. "Oh yeah," he said casually. "I needed the racing channel." "You do not mind, do you? You can afford it." I did mind. I minded very much. But once again, I swallowed my frustration and let it go. I told myself it was not worth fighting about. I told myself that family was more important than money. But the truth was starting to become clear. I was being taken advantage of. Every month I was spending nearly $4,000 on that household. Utility bills, cable, internet, groceries that I had started paying for when my mother complained that food costs had gone up with so many people in the house. I was working 60-hour weeks in Austin, sacrificing my personal life and my health to fund a lifestyle for people who did nothing all day. My girlfriend Priya was the first one brave enough to say it out loud. "Marcus," she said one night over dinner, "your family is using you. They see you as a bank account, not a person. And the more you give, the more they expect." I got defensive. I told her she did not understand that this was just how families worked, that I had a responsibility as the oldest child and the most successful one to take care of everyone else. But even as the words came out of my mouth, I knew she was right. I was exhausted. I was resentful. And for the first time in my life, I was starting to dread phone calls from my own mother. The breaking point came on Thanksgiving, about 3 years after I had bought my mother the house. I had planned this trip for weeks. It was going to be special because I was bringing Priya home to meet my family for the first time. We had been dating for almost 2 years, and I was starting to think about proposing. I wanted her to know where I came from, to meet the people who had shaped me into the man I had become. I also wanted to give my mother another gift. I had bought her a beautiful pearl necklace from a jewelry store in Austin. It cost nearly $2,000, but I wanted her to have something elegant, something she could wear and feel special. We flew into Columbus the day before Thanksgiving. I had rented a nice car for the drive to my mother's house, wanting to make a good impression. The whole way there, I was telling Priya stories about my childhood, about how hard my mother had worked, about how much I loved my family despite the distance. When we pulled into the driveway, I felt a wave of pride. The house looked beautiful. The lawn was trimmed, there were fall decorations on the porch, and warm light glowed from the windows. This was my gift to my mother. This was the life I had built for her. But something felt off from the moment we walked through the door. Nobody came to greet us. The front door was unlocked, so we let ourselves in. I could hear the TV blaring from the living room, some football game at maximum volume. When I walked in, I found Uncle Derek in his usual spot on the couch, beer in hand, eyes glued to the screen. Jenna was sitting in the armchair, scrolling through her phone. My mother was in the kitchen, busy with the turkey. The kids were nowhere to be seen, probably in one of the bedrooms playing video games. "Hey everyone," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "We are here." Derek grunted without looking away from the TV. Jenna glanced up, gave a half wave, and went back to her phone. My mother called out from the kitchen, asking me to bring in our bags and make ourselves comfortable. No hugs. No "how was your flight?" No "nice to finally meet you, Priya." Just indifference. I tried not to let it bother me. I introduced Priya to everyone, explaining that she was my girlfriend and that I was excited for them to get to know her. Derek barely acknowledged her. Jenna looked her up and down with an expression I could not quite read. My mother finally came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron, and gave Priya a brief, stiff handshake. I handed my mother the gift-wrapped box with the pearl necklace inside. She said thanks in a flat tone, set it on the counter without opening it, and went back to cooking. Priya squeezed my hand. I could tell she was uncomfortable, but she was trying to stay positive for my sake. As we settled in, I started noticing small conversations happening around us. Whispered words, sideways glances. At one point, I walked past the hallway and heard my Aunt Patricia, my mother's older sister who had come for the holiday, talking to Jenna in a low voice. "He brought an outsider," Patricia was saying. "Did anyone know about this?" He did not even ask. I felt my stomach drop. Outsider. They were talking about Priya. And from the tone of Patricia's voice, it was not a compliment. Priya is Indian American, born and raised in California. Her parents immigrated from Mumbai in the 1980s. She is brilliant, kind, successful. She works as a pediatric nurse and has the biggest heart of anyone I have ever met. But in that moment, I realized that none of that mattered to some members of my family. They saw her as different, as not one of us. I tried to shake off the bad feeling. I told myself I was being paranoid. Dinner started around 6 in the evening. The table was set beautifully. I have to give my mother credit for that. Turkey stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. It looked like a picture from a magazine. We all sat down. My mother at the head of the table with Derek on one side and Aunt Patricia on the other. Jenna sat next to Derek with her kids, Tyler and Madison, beside her. Priya and I sat at the far end, almost like afterthoughts. The conversation flowed around us, mostly gossip about people I did not know, and complaints about the weather. Nobody asked about my job. Nobody asked about my life in Austin. Nobody asked Priya a single question about herself. Then about halfway through the meal, Aunt Patricia turned to my mother with a concerned expression. "Barbara," she said, "how are you really doing these days? We hardly hear from you anymore." My mother set down her fork and let out a long, dramatic sigh. She looked directly at me, and I saw something in her eyes that I had never seen before. Resentment. "Honestly," she said, "that boy gives us nothing but headaches." I felt like I had been punched in the chest. The room went silent. Everyone was looking at me. My mother continued, her voice growing more bitter with each word. "He thinks buying this house makes him some kind of hero. But he is never here. He never visits. He never calls." "That is not true," I started to say, but she cut me off. "Do not interrupt me. I am your mother." She turned back to Patricia. "He sends money like that is supposed to fix everything. But money is not love. Money is not family. He moved 1,000 miles away and left us behind. And when he does bother to show up, he brings strangers and acts like he is too good for us. Mom is right. Jenna chimed in, nodding vigorously. He is always too busy for us. He missed Tyler's birthday last year. He missed Christmas the year before that. And now he shows up with her. She gestured dismissively toward Priya. Like we are supposed to just accept whoever he brings into our home. I looked at Priya. Her face was carefully neutral, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. Uncle Derek decided to add his opinion. The kid has no respect. I asked for one simple thing, a sports channel, and he acted like I was asking for $1 million. He cannot even do that much for his own family. Aunt Patricia leaned forward, her voice dripping with condescension. You know Marcus' family is not about money. It is about being present. Maybe if you spent less time chasing your career and more time with your mother, she would not feel so abandoned. My mother started crying, actual tears streaming down her face. I am so lonely, she sobbed. My son is a stranger to me. He sends checks like I am some kind of charity case, but he cannot even pick up the phone. I sat there frozen, processing what was happening. Every word felt like a knife. I had given everything to this family. Everything. And this was how they saw me. As a selfish, absent, uncaring villain. But here's the thing they did not know. I did call. Every single week I called my mother's phone. And every single week she let it go to voicemail. She never called back. She only ever reached out when she needed something. I took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when I finally spoke. I see, I said quietly. So I give you nothing but headaches. That is right, my mother said, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. Okay. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Let me show you exactly what nothing looks like. I started reading aloud. Purchase price of this house $350,000. Paid in full August 15th, 3 years ago. No mortgage. No debt. Owned outright. The room was silent. Utility payments over the past 36 months. Electricity averaging $250 per month. Water $90 per month. Gas $120 in winter. $60 in summer. Internet and cable, including the premium sports package that Uncle Derek requested $175 per month. Home insurance $100 per month. Total monthly expenses approximately $4,000. Over 3 years that comes to $144,000. Nobody said a word. Total investment in this household. I continued approximately $494,000. Nearly $500,000. I looked around the table. Jenna, how much have you contributed? Derek, how much rent have you paid Mom? Do you know that I call every single Sunday at 3 in the afternoon and you never answer? My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Jenna was staring at her plate. Derek suddenly found his beer very interesting. You want to call me selfish? I said. Fine. Let me show you what selfish really looks like. Starting next month, I am done. The house is paid off, so you do not have to worry about losing it. But there will be no more utility payments from me. No electricity, no water, no internet, no cable, no grocery money, nothing. You can figure it out yourselves since apparently I give you nothing but headaches anyway. I stood up from the table. Priya stood with me. I looked at my mother one last time. I love you, Mom. I always will. But I refuse to be disrespected by the people I have sacrificed everything for. When you are ready to have an honest conversation about what has really been happening in this family, you know how to reach me. I took Priya's hand and we walked out of that house. Behind us, I could hear voices, rising arguments, starting chaos erupting. But I did not look back. The flight back to Austin was the longest of my life. I sat in my window seat staring at the clouds below us, replaying every moment of that dinner in my mind. Priya held my hand the entire time. She did not try to talk. She did not try to fix anything. She just let me feel what I was feeling. Somewhere over Missouri, I started to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears streaming down my face. Tears I did not even try to wipe away. It was the first time I had cried in years, maybe a decade. I had spent my entire adult life trying to be the perfect son, trying to make up for my father's absence, trying to give my mother the life she deserved. And none of it had been enough. Not only was it not enough, but it had apparently made me the villain of my own family. When we landed in Austin, I felt empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just the shell. The days that followed were brutal. My phone blew up with messages from family members. At first they were angry. How dare you embarrass Mom like that? You think you are better than us. You are dead to this family. The words were cruel, designed to hurt. And they did. Then, as the reality of the situation set in, the tone changed. The anger turned to desperation. Marcus, please, the electricity got shut off. Marcus, we need help with groceries. Marcus, you cannot do this to your own mother. The messages became more frequent, more urgent. I did not respond to any of them. Priya was my rock during those dark weeks. She did not push me to talk. She did not offer unsolicited advice. She just showed up every single day with quiet acts of love. A home-cooked meal, a cup of tea, a shoulder to lean on when the silence became too heavy. One night, about 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, I finally broke down completely. I told Priya everything, every feeling I had been suppressing for years, the pressure of being the responsible one, the guilt of leaving Ohio, the fear that no matter how much I gave it would never be enough, the loneliness of being seen as a bank account instead of a human being. She listened to every word. And when I was done, she said something that changed my life. Marcus, she said softly, you have spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. It is time to take care of yourself. That is not selfish. That is survival. I started seeing a therapist the following week. Dr. Robinson, a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. In our sessions, I began to unpack decades of unhealthy patterns. The guilt I felt for leaving home, the impossible expectations I had placed on myself, the way I had allowed my family to treat me because I believed I owed them something. Dr. Robinson taught me that love and boundaries can coexist, that taking care of yourself is not the same as abandoning others, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and allow people to face the natural consequences of their choices. It was hard work. There were days when I wanted to give up, to just send the money and make the problems go away. But I knew that would only perpetuate the cycle, so I stayed strong. Meanwhile, back in Ohio, my family was forced to confront reality. About 6 weeks after I cut off financial support, Jenna got a job. A real job, working as a cashier at a grocery store. It was not glamorous, but it was honest work. She started paying for some of the utilities. She started contributing. Uncle Derek moved out. Without my money funding his lifestyle, he could no longer justify staying in a house where he was not paying his way. He went to stay with a friend in another town. I heard later that he actually found a job at an auto parts store. Nothing fancy, but it was something. My mother learned how to budget. For the first time in years, she had to pay attention to electricity usage, to water consumption, to grocery costs. It was an adjustment, but she managed. She even started a small vegetable garden in the backyard to save money on produce. About 3 months after Thanksgiving, I received a letter in the mail. A handwritten letter from my mother. Dear Marcus, it began. I do not know where to start. I have written and rewritten this letter a dozen times and nothing feels adequate. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I took you for granted. I took your love, your sacrifice, your generosity, and I threw it back in your face. I let other people poison my mind against you. I let my own bitterness and loneliness turn into resentment toward the one person who never stopped showing up for me. You have done more for this family than anyone could ever ask. And instead of thanking you, I humiliated you. I will never forgive myself for that. I am not writing to ask for money. I do not deserve your help. I am writing to say I am sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. You are a good man, Marcus. The best man I know. And I am so proud to be your mother, even if I have done a terrible job of showing it. If you never want to speak to me again, I understand. But if you ever find it in your heart to give me another chance, I promise I will do better. I will be the mother you deserve. With all my love. Mom, I read that letter 17 times. I cried through every reading. It took me another 3 months to respond. Not because I was angry, but because I needed to heal. I needed to make sure that when I reached out, it was from a place of wholeness, not weakness. When I finally called my mother, we talked for 4 hours. Real talk. Honest talk. We discussed everything. The pain, the misunderstandings, the years of unspoken resentment. She apologized again, and this time I could hear that she meant it. Not just the words, but the change behind them. I told her that I would help again, but things would be different. I would not be the family ATM anymore. I would contribute what I could when I could within reasonable limits. And I expected everyone in that household to contribute as well. No more freeloaders. No more entitlement. She agreed. More than agreed, she embraced it. She said that losing my support had been the wake-up call she needed. She had been so focused on what she did not have that she had become blind to everything I had given. We are rebuilding now. Slowly, carefully, one conversation at a time. Our relationship is not perfect, but it is more honest than it has ever been. We have learned to communicate instead of assume, to appreciate instead of expect, to love each other as imperfect humans, not as idealized versions of who we want each other to be. Jenna and I have also made progress. She apologized for her words at Thanksgiving, admitted that she had been jealous of my success, and had taken out her frustrations on me. We are not as close as we were when we were kids, but we are cordial. We are family. And Priya, I proposed to her 6 months after that terrible Thanksgiving. She said yes before I even finished the question. We are getting married next spring and my mother is flying to Austin for the wedding. She has already met Priya properly over video calls and eventually in person during a visit where everyone was on their best behavior. She loves her. She calls her the daughter she always wanted. Looking back, I realized that Thanksgiving was not the worst day of my life. It was actually the beginning of something better. It was the moment I finally stopped being a doormat and started being a person with boundaries and self-respect. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. It is okay to love your family and still protect yourself from them. It is okay to be generous and still have limits. It is okay to walk away from situations that are hurting you, even when those situations involve the people you love most. Loving your family does not mean losing yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let people face the consequences of their actions. It is not about revenge. It is not about punishment. It is about respect. Respect for yourself, and ultimately respect for them too. Because when you enable bad behavior, you are not helping anyone. You are just delaying the inevitable reckoning. I used to think that being a good son meant giving everything I had until there was nothing left. Now I know that being a good son means showing up as my whole, healthy, boundaried self. That is the best gift I can give my family. That is the best gift I can give myself. So if you are out there pouring from an empty cup, sacrificing your well-being for people who do not appreciate you, I want you to know that you deserve better. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. You deserve to be loved, not for what you can provide, but for who you are. And it is never too late to start demanding that for yourself. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt taken for granted by the people closest to you? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. Let us support each other because none of us should have to go through these things alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to keep sharing stories like this one. And if you are not already subscribed, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Please share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change just by passing along a message of hope and self-respect. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and for being part of this community. I appreciate every single one of you more than you know. Take care of yourselves out there. Remember, you are worthy of love and respect exactly as you are. Until next time.